The roar of the crowd was deafening, lights flashing in every direction, and the electrifying energy pulsed through the massive stadium. Yet, as Dwayne stood in the center of the ring, victorious once again, his mind drifted, not to the glory of the moment, but to the long and painful road that had brought him here. The world knew him as The Rock, the wrestling champion, the Hollywood star, the larger-than-life icon. But few knew the struggles, the losses, and the failures that had shaped him into the man standing tall under the bright lights. His journey wasn't one of overnight success. It was built on resilience, grit, and an unbreakable will to rise above adversity. Early life. The fight before the fight. Born on May 2, 1972, in Hayward, California, Dwayne Douglas Johnson grew up in a world that revolved around wrestling. His father, Rocky Johnson, was a well-respected professional wrestler, a man of discipline and power. His grandfather, Peter Maivia, was a Samoan wrestling legend. It seemed that wrestling was in his blood, but Dwayne's path would not be as straightforward as his lineage suggested. As a child, he moved frequently from California to New Zealand, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Pennsylvania, as his father pursued his wrestling career. The constant change made it difficult for Dwayne to fit in. He was often the new kid, struggling to find his place. By the time he was 14, things took a turn for the worse. His family, once comfortable, faced severe financial struggles. One day, he returned home to find his mother sitting in their small apartment, tears streaming down her face. Their car had been repossessed, and they were struggling to afford even the basics. It was a defining moment, one that etched itself deep into Dwayne's soul. "I never wanted to see my family like that again," he would later say. "That was the moment I promised myself I would work harder than anyone else in the room." Reckless years. The wrong path. But determination alone wasn't enough to keep him from trouble. By the time he was in high school, Dwayne had become a rebellious teenager, getting into fights and even being arrested multiple times for theft and disorderly conduct. His towering frame and athleticism made him an intimidating figure, and he used it to his advantage. One day, as he sat in the principal's office after yet another fight, the school's football coach, Jody Quick, walked in. He looked Dwayne in the eyes and said, "You have two paths in front of you. One leads to a cell, the other to greatness. Which one are you choosing?" That question stuck with him. He knew he had the potential for something greater, but he needed to change. Football, the first dream. Dwayne threw himself into football. With his 6'5" frame and powerful build, he quickly became a force on the field. He earned a scholarship to play for the University of Miami, one of the top college football teams in the nation. It seemed like his dream was finally coming true. He was on his way to the NFL. But fate had other plans. After a promising start, Dwayne suffered a devastating shoulder injury. He was sidelined, watching his teammates play, while he sat helplessly on the bench. He worked hard to recover, but when the time came for the NFL draft, his name was never called. The dream he had built his life around shattered in an instant. With no football career and no backup plan, he found himself at 23 years old, broke and lost. He had only $7 in his pocket, no direction, and no idea what to do next. It was in that darkness that he made a decision: the return to wrestling. Swallowing his pride, Dwayne turned to the one thing he had spent his whole life trying to avoid: professional wrestling. His father was hesitant, knowing the brutal sacrifices that came with the sport. But Dwayne was determined. "I have no choice," he told his father. "I have to fight." And so, with nothing but his $7, his determination, and his family's legacy, he stepped into the ring for the first time. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of the greatest fight of his life. The world of professional wrestling was nothing like Dwayne had imagined. It wasn't just about strength or charisma, it was about survival. When he stepped into his first wrestling gym, he was met with skepticism and doubt. Despite being the son of wrestling legend Rocky Johnson, many saw him as just another football dropout looking for a quick way to stay relevant. "Being someone's son doesn't mean you can wrestle," one veteran wrestler scoffed as he watched Dwayne struggle through basic drills. But Dwayne wasn't here for favors. He had something to prove, not just to the world but to himself. The training that broke him. Dwayne's father agreed to train him, but he wasn't going to make it easy. "You think this is about being strong?" Rocky Johnson growled. "This is about endurance, storytelling, and knowing how to take a hit. You have to make people believe in you." The training sessions were grueling. Endless hours in the ring, learning how to take falls without breaking bones. Running drills until his legs felt like jelly. Practicing moves over and over again until his body ached. There were nights he collapsed in bed, his muscles burning, his spirit crushed. But quitting was not an option. Then came his first match. It wasn't on TV. There were no bright lights, no roaring fans. Just a small gym, a few dozen spectators, and an opponent twice his size. When the bell rang, reality hit him. This wasn't a game. His opponent slammed him into the mat, the impact rattling his bones. The crowd barely reacted. He was just another rookie trying to make a name for himself. That night, as he sat in the locker room, staring at his bruises in the mirror, doubt crept in. "Maybe this isn't for me," he whispered to himself. But then he thought about his past. The eviction notices. His mother's tears. The $7 in his pocket when he had nothing left. This was his only shot. He had to fight harder. Becoming Rocky Maivia, Dwayne's perseverance paid off. In 1996, he got his first big break, a contract with WWE, then WWF. But there was a catch. Vince McMahon, the CEO of WWE, decided to brand him as Rocky Maivia, a combination of his father's and grandfather's names. It was meant to honor his wrestling lineage, but to Dwayne, it felt like he was being forced into a legacy that wasn't truly his. Still, he played along. Dressed in bright blue and white wrestling gear, smiling for the cameras, he was presented as the ultimate good guy. Fans were expected to love him. They hated him instead. Every time he entered the arena, boos filled the air. The audience saw him as a corporate creation, a forced character that didn't feel real. Instead of cheering, they chanted, "Rocky sucks. Die, Rocky, die." It was humiliating. He had worked so hard, only to be rejected by the very fans he was trying to win over. For the first time in his life, Dwayne felt like he was failing in front of the world. Hitting rock bottom again. The backlash was brutal. After just a few months, Rocky Maivia was deemed a failure. A knee injury sidelined him, forcing him to step away from wrestling for months. During that time, he had a choice. Return as the same character and keep failing. Reinvent himself completely. Dwayne chose the second option. He decided he would no longer be who others wanted him to be. He wasn't just Rocky's son. He wasn't just a struggling wrestler. He was Dwayne Johnson, and it was time the world knew that. The birth of The Rock. When he returned, he was different. Gone was the forced smile and bright-colored gear. This time, he came back as The Rock. He spoke with confidence. He oozed charisma. He didn't care if the fans booed, he embraced it. He grabbed the microphone and fired back at the audience. Finally, The Rock has come back. He insulted his opponents in the most entertaining ways possible. He called himself the most electrifying man in sports entertainment and made phrases like, "If you smell what The Rock is cooking," legendary. The fans couldn't get enough. The man they once hated was now the most popular wrestler in the world. But this was just the beginning. The Rock was about to become a global phenomenon. The roar of the WWE crowd was deafening as The Rock stood in the ring, microphone in hand. His presence alone sent waves of energy through the arena. He was no longer the struggling Rocky Maivia. He was now one of the biggest names in professional wrestling. But as he stood there, delivering another electrifying promo, a thought lingered in his mind. Is this it? Is there something more? Dwayne Johnson had conquered the world of wrestling. He had become a multiple-time WWE champion, main event the biggest shows, and earned the respect of millions. But deep down, he knew that there was another mountain to climb: Hollywood. He had seen wrestlers try to transition into movies before, but most had failed. The entertainment industry had a history of mocking professional wrestlers, treating them as nothing more than muscle-bound stuntmen. Dwayne wanted to change that. He wasn't just another athlete looking for a quick paycheck. He wanted to prove that he belonged in the movie business. But first, he had to start from the bottom. The first role, a risky bet. In 2001, Hollywood came knocking. He was offered a small role in The Mummy Returns, playing the Scorpion King. It wasn't a lead role, but it was his chance to make an impact. There was just one problem. Most of his screen time was as a CGI monster. When the film was released, audiences loved The Rock's performance, but critics mocked the poor CGI effects of his character's final form. Still, it didn't matter. Hollywood had noticed him. Producers saw something special: his charisma, his presence, his ability to command attention. And so, just a year later, he was offered his first lead role, The Scorpion King, 2002. The movie wasn't a masterpiece, but it was a financial success, earning over $180 million worldwide. Even more impressive, Dwayne was paid $5.5 million for his performance, the highest salary ever given to an actor for their first leading role. It was a record-breaking moment, but it came with pressure. Now, the world was watching. Could he truly become a Hollywood star, or was this just a lucky break? The struggles of a new actor. Dwayne quickly learned that Hollywood was a different beast. In WWE, he had creative control over his character. He could speak freely, control his persona, and engage with the audience in real time. In movies, he was given a script. He had to follow a director's vision, stick to lines written by others, and prove himself in an industry that saw him as an outsider. For the first few years, he was typecast. The Rundown, 2003, action hero. Walking Tall, 2004, action hero. Doom, 2005, action hero. The roles felt repetitive. He was trapped in Hollywood's stereotype of a wrestler-turned-actor, a big, muscular guy who did nothing but fight. Deep down, Dwayne knew he could do more. But the industry wasn't ready to see him as anything else. A career-changing decision. By 2008, Dwayne made a bold decision. He announced that he was officially retiring from wrestling to focus entirely on acting. The wrestling world was shocked. Why would The Rock leave WWE at the peak of his career? Fans asked. But Dwayne knew something they didn't. If he wanted to be taken seriously in Hollywood, he had to fully commit. He couldn't just be a wrestler who did movies. He had to become an actor. So he changed everything. He took acting lessons to improve his craft. He lost weight to reshape his physique, proving he could play more than just a muscle-bound action star. He took smaller, riskier roles that allowed him to explore comedy and drama. One of his biggest risks? Tooth Fairy, 2010. Fans were confused. Why would The Rock, a man known for toughness, dress up in a tutu and play a magical fairy? But Dwayne had a plan. He wasn't just chasing action movies anymore. He wanted to show range, to prove that he could do comedy, drama, and family films just as well as action. It was a long game, and many doubted him. The Game Changer. Fast and Furious. Then, in 2011, everything changed. The Fast and Furious franchise, already one of the biggest in Hollywood, was looking for a new character. A tough, no-nonsense lawman who could go toe-to-toe with Vin Diesel. Dwayne was cast as Luke Hobbs in Fast 5, and the moment he stepped on screen, everything changed. His intensity, his comic timing, his sheer presence. It was as if he was born for the role. The movie was a massive success, earning over $600 million worldwide. Critics and audiences loved him, and suddenly, he wasn't just an actor trying to prove himself. He was a box office powerhouse. Over the next few years, he became one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. Fast and Furious 6, 2013, $789 million. Furious 7, 2015, $1.5 billion. The Fate of the Furious, 2017, $1.2 billion. Suddenly, studios weren't doubting him anymore. They were chasing him. The king of the box office. Dwayne had officially conquered Hollywood. He wasn't just a former wrestler doing movies. He was a superstar who could lead billion-dollar franchises. He headlined hit after hit. San Andreas, 2015, a disaster epic that grossed $474 million. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, 2017, a global hit with $962 million. Hobbs and Shaw, 2019, a Fast and Furious spin-off that made $760 million. By 2020, he was the highest-paid actor in the world, earning over $87 million in a single year. But despite his success, he never forgot where he came from. He still remembered the $7 in his pocket when he had nothing. That's why he launched $7 Productions, a company dedicated to telling underdog stories like his own. Dwayne Johnson had done the impossible. He had gone from a broke football player to a WWE icon to the biggest star in Hollywood. And yet, he wasn't done. Because legends don't stop, they just keep going. Success in Hollywood wasn't enough for Dwayne Johnson. He had already conquered professional wrestling. He had become the highest-paid actor in the world. But Dwayne wasn't just chasing fame. He was building a legacy. The world saw him as a wrestler, an actor, and a box office machine. But he had bigger dreams. He wanted to own businesses, launch brands, and inspire millions through his work outside of movies. This was the beginning of The Rock's empire. From star to business mogul, Dwayne understood one simple truth: athletes and actors don't stay at the top forever. He had seen it happen to others. Once the spotlight faded, their careers crumbled. He refused to let that happen to him. That's why, at the peak of his Hollywood success, he began expanding into business, fitness, and brand building. His goal wasn't just to be an entertainer. He wanted to be a leader, a businessman, a force of nature that no one could ignore. The birth of $7 Productions. Dwayne had a simple philosophy: own your story. Most actors waited for Hollywood to offer them roles. But Dwayne wanted control over the movies he made. That's why he and his ex-wife, Dany Garcia, co-founded $7 Productions, a name that came from the moment in his life when he had just $7 left in his pocket. With this company, he wouldn't just act, he would produce, create, and shape the stories he wanted to tell. $7 Productions went on to produce blockbusters like Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, 2017, $962 million. Hobbs and Shaw, 2019, $760 million. Jungle Cruise, 2021, $220 million. Red Notice, 2021, Netflix's most-watched movie ever. Now, he wasn't just a star in movies. He was the man behind them. But movies weren't enough. Dwayne wanted to build an empire that touched every industry. The fitness revolution. Project Rock. For years, fans had asked Dwayne, "How do you train? What's your routine?" He knew that fitness wasn't just a hobby, it was his way of life. So, he partnered with Under Armour to launch Project Rock, a fitness brand dedicated to pushing people beyond their limits. Training shoes that became instant bestsellers. Apparel and gear designed for athletes of all levels. Motivational products that embodied his work ethic. Project Rock wasn't just about selling products, it was about inspiring people. He believed that everyone had a little bit of the Rock inside them, the ability to push harder, train smarter, and become the strongest version of themselves. The brand exploded in popularity, making millions in revenue every year. The tequila takeover, Teremana. Many Hollywood stars launched alcohol brands, but Dwayne wanted to do it differently. In 2020, he introduced Teremana Tequila, a premium tequila brand that focused on quality and authenticity. Instead of just slapping his name on the bottle, he worked directly with distillers in Mexico, ensuring that every drop was handcrafted to perfection. Within 2 years, Teremana became one of the fastest-growing tequila brands in the world, selling millions of bottles worldwide. It wasn't just a business, it was a movement. Fans loved the story behind the brand. A kid who once had $7 in his pocket now had a tequila empire that people couldn't get enough of. But Dwayne wasn't done yet. From the Rock to the boss, owning the XFL, Dwayne never forgot his football roots. Even though he never made it to the NFL, he still loved the game. So, in 2020, when Vince McMahon's football league, the XFL, went bankrupt, Dwayne saw an opportunity. He and Dany Garcia bought the league for $15 million. It was a huge risk. The XFL had already failed twice before. But Dwayne believed in second chances. He knew what it was like to be counted out. His goal? To turn the XFL into a football league for underdogs, players who, like him, just needed one shot to prove themselves. By 2023, the league had successfully relaunched, giving hundreds of players a new chance to chase their football dreams. Dwayne had done the impossible again. He went from a rejected football player to a football league owner. The people's champion, giving back. Despite all his success, Dwayne never forgot where he came from. He donated millions to charities, especially for underprivileged kids. He paid for scholarships to help young athletes achieve their dreams. He helped struggling families by giving them homes and financial support. One of his most powerful moments came in 2018 when he surprised his former football coach by buying him a house. "This man changed my life," Dwayne said with tears in his eyes. "And now I get to change his." That was Dwayne's true power, not just winning, but lifting others up with him. The future. What's next for The Rock? Dwayne had already achieved more than anyone could have imagined. Wrestling legend, white heavy checkmark. Hollywood superstar, white heavy checkmark. Business mogul, white heavy checkmark. Owner of a football league, white heavy checkmark. Philanthropist and role model, white heavy checkmark. But what's next? There were rumors that he might one day run for president of the United States. When asked, he smiled and said, "If the people want me to serve, I'll consider it." Because for Dwayne Johnson, the journey never stops. His mission wasn't just to be great, it was to inspire greatness in others. And as long as he had breath in his body, he would keep pushing, keep growing, and keep proving that nothing is impossible. Because that's what legends do. At the peak of his success, Dwayne Johnson seemed unstoppable. He had conquered WWE, Hollywood, business, and sports, creating an empire that millions admired. From box office hits to billion-dollar brands, he had turned every challenge into a victory. But behind the scenes, life wasn't always as perfect as it seemed. Even the strongest warriors face battles that no one sees. And for Dwayne, some of his hardest fights weren't in the wrestling ring or on the big screen. They were personal, emotional, and deeply painful. The pain of fame. With great success came great sacrifices. As Dwayne's career skyrocketed, his schedule became relentless. Filming movies, running businesses, promoting brands, and training daily. Every morning, he was up at 4 a.m. to hit the gym. Every day, he was flying between movie sets, business meetings, and global events. The world saw The Rock, the powerful, unstoppable superstar. But the truth? He barely had time for himself. His personal life suffered. He missed important family moments. The pressure to keep succeeding never stopped. Despite his smile on camera, there were nights when he felt exhausted, lost, and alone. Divorce, a heartbreaking goodbye. In 2008, after 10 years of marriage, Dwayne and Dany Garcia announced their divorce. The news shocked fans. Dany had been his biggest supporter, not just his wife, but also his business partner and the person who helped him transition from wrestling to Hollywood. Many wondered, what went wrong? The truth was simple. Their lives had changed. Dwayne's career had exploded, and his constant traveling and work commitments had taken a toll on their relationship. But unlike many divorces, theirs wasn't filled with hatred or anger. Instead, they made a rare and powerful decision. They remained best friends and business partners. Even after their divorce, Dany continued to manage his career, helping him grow 7 Bucks Productions into a Hollywood powerhouse. Dwayne later said, "She's been my rock, even after we separated. Our love changed, but our respect for each other never did." But while they handled their split with grace, it still hurt deeply. For Dwayne, it was a painful reminder that success comes with sacrifices. Depression, the silent battle. Most people saw Dwayne as a symbol of strength, but few knew about his struggles with depression. In interviews, he later opened up about one of the darkest times in his life. It happened years before Hollywood, back when he was still a young football player. After being cut from the CFL, losing his dream, and having just $7 to his name, he fell into a deep depression. "I didn't want to do anything," he admitted. "I didn't know what my purpose was. I was lost. He cried constantly, felt empty, and questioned whether life was worth it. But through those dark days, he fought back. His mother, Ada Johnson, reminded him, "One day, this pain will be your strength." She was right. Years later, even at the height of his fame, depression returned. He struggled with exhaustion from overworking, the pressures of Hollywood, the guilt of missing time with his family. But instead of hiding it, he spoke about it. He wanted people to know that even the strongest warriors can feel weak. "The most important thing is to ask for help," he told fans. "You're not alone, and you're not broken." His honesty inspired millions, proving that true strength isn't about hiding pain, but facing it. Family first, a new beginning. Through the pain of his divorce and depression, Dwayne found happiness again. In 2007, he met Lauren Hashian, a talented singer and songwriter. At first, he wasn't sure if he was ready for love again. But Lauren was different. She understood him. She didn't love him because he was the rock. She loved Dwayne, the man behind the fame. Over the years, their bond grew stronger. In 2015, they welcomed their first daughter, Jasmine, followed by their second, Tiana, in 2018. Becoming a father again changed everything. For the first time in years, he slowed down. He made sure to prioritize family. In 2019, after 12 years together, Dwayne and Lauren got married in a private ceremony in Hawaii. "She's my greatest blessing," he said. "She makes me a better man, a better father, a better everything." The Hollywood feud, The Rock versus Vin Diesel. Even as Dwayne's career flourished, not all relationships were smooth. One of the biggest Hollywood feuds in recent years was between Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel. It started in 2016, during the filming of The Fate of the Furious. Dwayne posted a cryptic message on Instagram, calling some of his male co-stars Candy S***, saying they were unprofessional and didn't work hard enough. Fans quickly speculated that he was talking about Vin Diesel. Over the next few years, their tension grew. Dwayne later confirmed that they clashed on set, saying, "We have very different ways of working. I believe in hard work, respect, and delivering the best for the fans." The feud led to Dwayne refusing to appear in Fast and Furious 9, instead choosing to focus on his Hobbs and Shaw spin-off. For years, their relationship remained strained. But in 2023, something surprising happened. Dwayne and Vin Diesel reconciled. They put their differences aside, with Dwayne agreeing to return to the Fast and Furious franchise. "At the end of the day, it's about the fans," Dwayne said. "Sometimes family fights, but real family always finds a way back." It was another lesson in growth, forgiveness, and focusing on the bigger picture. The strength to keep going. Through divorce, depression, rivalries, and struggles, Dwayne Johnson faced setbacks that could have broken him. But every time he fell, he got back up stronger. He learned that success means nothing if you lose yourself in the process. Fame and fortune don't guarantee happiness. True strength is not about muscles, it's about resilience. That's why, even after so many victories, he keeps pushing forward. Not just for himself, but for everyone who looks up to him. "The world can be tough," he says. "But no matter how hard it gets, always remember, greatness is in you." And for Dwayne Johnson, the greatest chapter is always the next one. Dwayne Johnson had conquered wrestling, dominated Hollywood, built billion-dollar businesses, and overcome personal struggles. But the biggest question remained: what comes next? For most people, achieving even a fraction of his success would be enough. But Dwayne wasn't most people. He believed that true greatness isn't just about what you achieve, it's about what you leave behind. This chapter explores his vision for the future, his new goals, and the lasting legacy he hopes to create. The Hollywood takeover, expanding his empire. For years, Dwayne had been a box office powerhouse. His films consistently made hundreds of millions of dollars, proving that audiences worldwide loved him. But now, he wanted more than just acting roles. He wanted to reshape Hollywood itself. Through $7 Productions, Dwayne and his team were working on producing more original films, stories that weren't just big action blockbusters, but also deeply inspiring. Expanding into television, creating high-quality shows and streaming content that resonated with audiences, giving new talent a chance, helping young actors, writers, and directors break into the industry. He wanted to change the game, just like he had done in wrestling and fitness. His dream? To build an entertainment empire that would last long after he retired from acting. A superhero for real, the Black Adam experiment. In 2022, Dwayne finally achieved one of his biggest dreams, becoming a superhero. He had spent over a decade trying to bring Black Adam to life, a film that would introduce a powerful and complex antihero to the DC universe. But despite his best efforts, the film had a mixed reception. Some fans loved it, but it struggled at the box office, and DC Studios decided to reboot their entire cinematic universe, meaning Dwayne's future as Black Adam was uncertain. Many saw it as a failure, but Dwayne didn't. Instead, he called it a stepping stone. Sometimes things don't go as planned, he admitted. But I don't believe in setbacks, only lessons. I'll be back in a bigger way. The experience taught him that even at his level of success, failure is still part of the journey. And true champions don't quit. They adapt and come back stronger, becoming a global motivator. More than movies, wrestling, or business, Dwayne's greatest passion was inspiring others. That's why he continued to share motivational videos and messages on social media, reaching millions daily. Visit schools and communities, encouraging young people to chase their dreams. Support struggling athletes by funding scholarships and training programs. He didn't just want to entertain people, he wanted to change lives. His mantra? Hardest worker in the room. Always give back. Always be grateful. Through his words and actions, he showed that anyone, no matter where they start, can achieve greatness. The political rumors. Will The Rock run for president? For years, people had asked a wild question. Will Dwayne Johnson run for president of the United States? At first, he laughed it off. But as time went on, he started thinking about it more seriously.
Why?
Because people trusted him. Polls showed that millions of Americans would support him if he ran. He had leadership skills from managing businesses and teams, global influence that could bring people together, a deep love for his country, and a desire to help others. In 2021, he addressed the idea, saying, "If the people want me to serve, I will consider it." He never officially announced a campaign, but the idea remained open. Many believed that one day, The Rock might step into politics, not for power, but to make a real impact. If that day ever comes, it could be his biggest challenge yet. The future of his family. Despite his never-ending schedule, Dwayne remained committed to his most important role, being a father. His 3 daughters, Simone, Jasmine, and Tiana, were his greatest joy. Simone followed in his footsteps, becoming the first fourth-generation WWE superstar under the ring name Ava Raine. Jasmine and Tiana were growing up fast, and he made sure to spend as much time with them as possible, even between movie shoots. "My biggest job is being a dad," he often said. Everything else comes second. His ultimate goal wasn't just career success, it was making sure his family was proud of him. The final mission, leaving a legacy. Dwayne Johnson's journey had been extraordinary. From a struggling football player to a wrestling icon. From a WWE legend to a Hollywood superstar. From an actor to a businessman, mentor, and inspiration to millions. But he knew that one day, his career would slow down. So, he focused on his ultimate mission, creating a legacy that would outlive him. That's why he continued to help young wrestlers in WWE find their path, mentor the next generation of actors and entrepreneurs, use his influence for good, whether through charity, business, or leadership. His message to the world was clear. Success isn't about what you achieve, it's about what you do with it. Dwayne wasn't done yet. But even when his time in Hollywood and wrestling finally ended, one thing was certain. His impact would last forever. Because legends never fade. They inspire generations to come. And that's exactly what Dwayne Johnson was born to do. Some names fade over time. Others become immortal. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had built a life filled with triumphs, setbacks, and comebacks. He had transformed from a struggling football player with $7 in his pocket to one of the most influential and admired figures in the world. But as he reached the later stages of his career, a new question arose. How would history remember him? This chapter explores his greatest lessons, the impact he left behind, and the legacy that will inspire generations to come. The unbreakable spirit. Lessons from The Rock. Dwayne's story wasn't just about fame or fortune. It was about resilience. Through every phase of his journey, he carried a set of powerful beliefs that helped him rise above any challenge. Fire. Be the hardest worker in the room. Dwayne's work ethic was legendary. Whether it was wrestling, acting, or business, he believed that effort beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Fire. Turn pain into power. From being cut from the CFL to battling depression, he had learned to use every failure as fuel. Instead of breaking him, his struggles made him unstoppable. Fire. Stay humble. Stay hungry. Even with millions of fans, billion-dollar businesses, and worldwide fame, Dwayne never let success change his core values. He treated everyone, fans, coworkers, and strangers, with the same kindness and respect. Fire. Give back. Despite his busy career, Dwayne made it a mission to help others. Whether through charity, mentorship, or motivational speeches, he wanted to lift people up, just as others had done for him. These weren't just words. They were the principles that turned Dwayne Johnson into a legend. From Hollywood to business tycoon. By the 2020s, Dwayne had evolved beyond entertainment. His empire now stretched into fitness and health. His energy drink brand Zoa and gym chain Iron Paradise became global sensations. Clothing and sneakers. His Project Rock line with Under Armour became one of the most successful athlete-driven brands ever. Entertainment production through $7 Productions. He didn't just star in films. He created them. Sports ownership. In 2020, he shocked the world by buying the XFL, a professional football league, aiming to give athletes a second chance. His mindset was simple. Don't just play the game. Own it. He wasn't just a star. He was a builder, an innovator, and a leader. The final run in WWE. Though Hollywood had become his main stage, Dwayne never forgot where it all began. For years, fans begged for one last WWE match. And finally, in 2024, the dream became reality. At WrestleMania 40, The Rock returned to the ring in a match that had been teased for over a decade. Fire The Rock versus Roman Reigns. Fire. The match wasn't just about championships, it was about legacy. Roman, the leader of the bloodline, had declared himself the head of the table, the greatest Samoan wrestler ever. But there was one man who could challenge that claim. And under the bright lights of WrestleMania, in front of 100,000 roaring fans, The Rock proved that even after years away, he still had the heart of a warrior. Though he lost the match, he passed the torch to the next generation. And with that, his in-ring career came full circle. Fatherhood, his greatest role. For all the success, Dwayne's most cherished role was being a father. His daughters, Simone, Jasmine, and Tiana, were his greatest pride. Simone, Ava Raine, was now a WWE superstar, carrying on the family legacy. Jasmine and Tiana were growing up fast, learning about life from the man who had conquered the world. Despite his schedule, he made sure they knew one thing. No matter how busy I get, I will always be there for you. Fame fades. Championships come and go. But family is forever. What's next? Even after decades of success, The Rock wasn't slowing down. His future goals included heavy checkmark more films. He wanted to make movies that weren't just entertaining but also inspiring. Heavy checkmark expanding his business empire. He aimed to create more opportunities for young entrepreneurs. Heavy checkmark a possible run for president. Though he hadn't confirmed anything, the idea still floated in the air. And most importantly, heavy checkmark helping others rise. Because for Dwayne, true success wasn't just about winning. It was about lifting others up. The final chapter, a legacy that will never die. Some people live to make money. Some people live to entertain. But Dwayne Johnson? He lived to inspire. His journey from being broke with $7 in his pocket to becoming one of the most influential figures in the world was proof that no dream is too big, no failure is final, no challenge is impossible. Even if he one day steps away from the screen, the ring, and the spotlight, one thing will remain: the lessons he left behind. Because legends don't just live in the present. They live forever in the hearts of those they inspire. And no matter how many years pass, people will always remember the man who defied the odds, broke every barrier, and proved that greatness is within us all. The story of Dwayne Johnson isn't just a story of success. It's a story of resilience, hard work, and never giving up. And that's why, even after everything, The Rock will always be remembered as one of the greatest of all time. The legend lives on.
The end.